We know the 49ers are taking the scenic route to the Super Bowl if they, in fact, get there. Got some news today that may make that journey a little bit harder. Plus, major takeaways from the Seahawks game. And Robert Saleh does a little thing in the background that makes you think he really wants out of San Francisco after this season. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast, part of the Pro Football Insiders. I'm Rob Stats Carrera. That man is Vish Kumar. And Vish, it's playoffs, baby, and the 49ers have a playoff game. How you feeling?
Yeah, that one turned on us pretty fast. Now, I'm excited about them being in the playoffs. And I got to say, we're going to talk about the Seattle game and a few other things. I don't know how, positive or where the show will go or what kind of turn it'll take. Successful season altogether for the 49ers. Like, we're not going to have that chance until maybe after the season's actually done to make that sort of reflection. But real quick, at the end of the regular season, obviously, we thought it was turning for the meant to be. It didn't quite turn out the way we wanted it to mean to be. But all the same, pretty amazing year for them to win 12 games without Nick Bosa, without Fred Warner. We thought this season was done at points, and now here they are in the playoffs. The bad news, I feel like it wasn't just that they missed on the 1 seed and lost to Seattle and didn't win the division. The way the seeding worked out, like Philly losing, I thought was awesome because, all the Bears needed to do was, the Bears losing, I thought was awesome because all Philly needed to do was beat crappy ass, dumpy ass Washington, led by Adam Peters, and they would have the 2 seed, and the 49ers could get their best possible matchup in the NFC, which is going to Chicago for their first round matchup. On the other hand, they got, to me, what is the worst possible matchup for them on paper, football wise, which is the Philadelphia Eagles. Another crazy good defense that they got right up in front of them. So that's how I feel, Rob, about this weekend. And that's how I felt about how things turned.
All right. You know what? I wasn't going to start with this. We'll get to the injury news about Pearsall and Purdy in a second. But gameplan.exe on Twitch, shout out to the Twitch fam, says big oofer seeing the loss to Seattle live, but I'm excited for the postseason. Maria Red says we're in it. No throwing in the towel. Look, I get it. Okay. I understand the Niners are beat to hell. The Eagles are better than the 49ers at almost every position. They're more talented. No question about it. I understand all of that. The Niners will probably lose this game this weekend. I get it. But you know what? They still have to play the game, okay? We still have to line up. They have to kick the ball off, and you got to play 60 minutes of football. And everybody needs to stop acting like weird stuff doesn't happen in the postseason, okay? Think of how much weird stuff the 49ers have been through in this postseason. They had a game against the Packers where they didn't score an offensive touchdown and they won because they returned a blocked punt for a touchdown. Okay. You had a game against the Lions where you were down by 17 points. You came back and won that game. Biggest comeback in NFC Championship game history. Crazy stuff happens in the postseason. So yeah, the 49ers need some help. No doubt about it. But we are living in the season of the 49ers needed help and stuff happen. Why are we all acting like there's no chance the 49ers can win? The season's over. We're doing the autopsy on the 2025 49ers already. Can we let them play the game first? I mean, damn.
Yeah, so I love your rant. I didn't want to stop that passion, but I didn't mean it as in the Niners don't have a chance. I still think they're very much live in this game. I think you're absolutely right. I learned my lesson after thinking the season was over once they lost Fred Warner for the year, and here they are playing in the playoffs. So I've learned better than to count this team out. All the same, when you look at this matchup on paper, would I have rather had them play Chicago? Absolutely. Do I think that they match up with the Rams better than they do Philly? Absolutely, I do. Do I think Green Bay is a better matchup on paper? Absolutely. Just in terms of having to deal with that defensive line, which is now healthy. Jalen Carter came back, and that's going to be a menace for the Niners to deal with. The whole defensive scheme with Fangio. Philly's always a tough place to play, but these Niners go play anywhere. That's not going to be an issue for them. And then the fact that Philly has Saquon Barkley and the Niners have maybe the single worst tackling defense most of us have laid our eyes on. We're getting some Jim O'Neill vibes from the way they tackle in the open field. Those things are what scare you about the matchup. Now, you're absolutely right, and I like that you went to the Packers example of how the Niners can win an improbable game by doing something improbable, like creating a special teams opportunity. We've gotten a little quiet from Brian Robinson and Sky Moore in the kick return game. This would be a huge game for them to rev that up. But just the matchup on paper alone, Rob, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you go from Seattle to now this defense. Like, those are the two best defenses other than Houston left.
I don't care about on paper, man. On paper, the 49ers should have 3 Super Bowls in their last 3 appearances. But guess what? They don't, man. They don't. So, like, I don't care about it. No, what do you mean? They were the better team in 2012.
2012, agreed. On paper, like, absolutely. I
they
think
were the better team in 2019 and 2023.
But
Especially
19 is a tough argument when you look at it on paper with how the Chiefs were coming back and Mahomes. It wasn't a consensus. And even 23, they weren't the consensus favorite either.
They
It
were
was
a
being picked both
ball in
ways.
2023, dude.
Sure, but it wasn't a consensus. Oh my God, were the Niners favored by 7 points in the Super Bowl? No.
Well, of course they weren't going to be over Patrick Mahomes.
Yes, okay, yeah.
But they were a better team than the Chiefs that year. They were.
Agreed. In 23, absolutely. In 19, when you take the quarterbacks, it's close.
Nobody.
But the Niners definitely had the better roster. But
look, I'm just sick of what should be, what might be on paper. Let's let them line up and let's let them play. Now, look, I get it. The Niners roster is banged up. Ricky Pearsall may not play in this game. Kyle Shanahan said he's going to be evaluated this week. Same with Trent Williams. We've seen this offense without Ricky Pearsall. We got a real good view of it on Saturday. It's ugly. There's no speed on offense without Ricky Pearsall. None whatsoever. And they can't uncover. They can't separate. It's Kittle, it's McCaffrey, and it's nothing else if Ricky Pearsall isn't out there. So that is scary against the Fangio defense.
Well, Juwan Jennings is still there. Juwan Jennings has had a good season since Purdy has came back. I want to mention him. I think the Pearsall thing is especially difficult against these two defenses in Philly and Seattle, because both of them have two things that make them stand out, which are two things to me, Rob, that make any defense good. They're really big in their defensive line, which means that you feel pressure with them around you without them necessarily being like on top of you. The Seahawks game is a great example of, even before they got to Brock Purdy, it felt like they were getting to Brock Purdy because of how big their defensive line was and how they were getting their hands up and in his face and right around his throwing areas. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with Philly's defensive line. And then the same thing is they have speed in their zone coverage to be able to move laterally and run with these receivers and run with all the movement and the eye candy and all of those things. And they're going to be disciplined to it. And so you're absolutely right about those two things. That's where having Pearsall and having a guy where it's like, okay, on the outside, he can run by us. That's a key. And sometimes I would say in an offense, like, not to take away from Kittle because Kittle does so much in the run game, but if you say the pass game strictly, it's more valuable to say, oh, I have a wide receiver on the outside that they're scared of, based on how that would change what they do defensively, versus I'm trying to scheme the whole pass game around my tight end, who's also my key blocker. So I'm doing it all out of a play action, that sort of setup. And so that's where they'll miss Ricky Pearsall as well. He practiced the whole week last week, so I thought maybe that was a good sign for him this week. But Shanahan has seemed very hesitant to go there every time he's gotten the chance to talk about it.
Well, they practiced, but they were all walkthroughs, so they weren't doing anything. So it was like, great, we can list him as limited because he was able to, walk during the practice, and we'll throw a little gamesmanship at Seattle's way. I think that hurt Ricky Pearsall because people saw the same thing and they were like, and he's not playing. What the hell, this guy, man? It's been a frustrating season for Pearsall. This PCL injury, he's not suffering like a different injury. It's the same injury. He's just trying to play through it, and he keeps re-aggravating it. And then he also got the ankle injury on top of it because of the hip drop tackle. It's just been an incredibly frustrating season because when he's
He's
out
been
there.
unable to play through it, right? Like, it feels like every time he tries to play, and I don't think he's been 100% when he's tried to come back the 2 times he's tried to come back, it's like, then he gets back to a point where it's like, "No, no, no, he can't play." Because their point is, right, Shanahan mentioned this earlier in the year, can he run his routes at his top speed consistently? That's what they're looking for him to play, and I think that's why they keep holding him out, because maybe he's reaching his top speed, so they think he's healthy, but then he's unable to sustain on that knee, being able to run his routes at his top speed for the entirety of a football game. And it's pretty unfortunate, because it feels like, to your point, despite what he's gotten, he's done everything to try and get himself back at each point.
And he's awesome when he plays, and he's got a good connection with Brock. He's really good, but he hasn't been, he's just been battling that all year long. And the frustrating thing, and this is sort of a bigger picture than just this week, is there's just nothing at the wide receiver position. They opened Jacob Cowing's practice window, and people are like, oh, he's been hurt all year. No, he hasn't. Matt Barrows said he was fully healthy weeks ago. They just chose not to use him. Jordan
They
Watkins,
didn't want to use one of their IR return spots on him, right?
yeah, but there's no, now they had some left over anyway, and you get 2 more for the playoffs anyway. So that wasn't
But
an
I
issue.
think I agree. I was just talking about when you were referring to it. I think I remember reading the same report from Matt Barrows, and that was kind of what he was thinking, because they thought more players at the time were going to be necessary for that.
Yeah, but you know who else is also necessary? Actual wide receivers that can scare defenses and run routes. And I don't know if Watkins or Cowing can do that, but I know who can't. Juwan Jennings and Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne has 4 games this season with no catches and still has the second most yards of any 49ers wide receiver. Think about
Well, I think there's 2 things to ponder at here. One is, to your point, you don't know if Watkins and Cowing can. Like, to me, the fact that they've decided with what they've had going in receiver, Cowing could not have helped this football team by bringing him back. And by the way, at that time, we thought, there was also Brandon Ayuk coming back, so it's going to be crowded. They knew he wasn't coming back at any point that they held Cowing out. So they were like, yeah, but we don't think Cowing helps this team out this year. And they decided that. Watkins has been more or less like, he's just enjoyed his spot on the 53 the way AJ Jenkins enjoyed his spot for the 2 years he was on the 49ers. So that's where they've been going. I mean, I think Juwan Jennings does separate at the top of his route. I agree he doesn't have speed. I'm totally with you on the Bourne thing. Like, I know Bourne's a fan favorite. Bourne's got energy. Bourne's a good guy. Bourne's a veteran.
Dude.
Like, that's not what you want to deal with. And Robinson has been doing better the last few weeks, but what I saw from Robinson in preseason, I was like, oh man, Robinson could be a starting receiver. Robinson is a receiver in your rotation. He's not a starting receiver, and they have turned him into a starting receiver right now, and he's just not reliable enough through a course of the game for you to be like, that's our number 2 guy that we're going to throw to 6 times.
There's just nothing at that position, and it's frustrating because they draft a receiver so they draft a receiver so often. iScott6015, YouTube channel member for 28 months. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And all our YouTube channel members says, what's wrong with Cowing and Watkins? We need speed. I mean, those guys have it. Watkins is actually faster than Cowing, believe it or not. Both are really fast. I mean, I don't like sticking with guys we know aren't good enough because we think other guys might not be good enough. Like, let's see. Let's find out for sure, because I know the other guys aren't good enough. So why not take a chance on somebody that might be good enough?
No, I think that's a fair point. You've always been adamant about that. I think the Niners are adamant that these guys are not good without even them having to put them in a game, which is a different argument.
No, they make those mistakes. They screw that up all the time. Brock Purdy never would have played. He never would have played.
They said that they thought he was the best quarterback in practice. So.
Yeah, that's great. When they buried him on the depth chart, he was 3rd. So he never would have played unless the 2 quarterbacks ahead of him got hurt. They never would have started Dominic Pooney at right guard if the 2 guards ahead of him didn't get hurt. Like, this team is wrong about that stuff all the time. And it's crazy to me that, like, the one position group that during the regular season has been held up enough to prevent those guys from getting on the field is wide receiver, right? I mean, every linebacker on the team is hurt right now, or every linebacker that made the 53, everyone. But wide
Yeah. Well,
receiver, Jawan Jennings and Kendrick Bourne are out there every week.
yeah, I don't think Jennings and Bourne are the same. It's not that I think Jennings is, Terrell Owens, but I don't think Jennings and Bourne are the same. All the
There's not
same,
that
I
much.
want to touch on another point that you made that I thought was very good, and you touched on them drafting wide receivers. I think there's a flaw with how they're drafting these wide receivers. Instead of drafting the best possible player when they're drafting a receiver in the third or fourth round at wide receiver, they're often looking for a skill set. So it's like our receiving core doesn't have a speed guy. Let's go draft a speed guy. Our receiving core doesn't have a return guy. Let's go get a return guy. Our receiving core doesn't have a gadget guy. Let's go get a gadget guy. And that guy turns into Danny Gray. That guy turns into Jake Cowing. That guy turns into Jordan Watkins. That to me is the bigger flaw. And that's why drafting a receiver every year, it's not like, oh, the Niners have, 3 good receivers, because the way the receivers are coming out, that's what you would think. Man, you draft a receiver this year, there's been 5 good receiver drafts in a row. If you draft 5 receivers in a row and they're all kind of third round picks, fourth round picks, second round picks, first round picks, you would think that the Niners would have more production there than their 3 highest drafted receivers, Pearsall, Ayuk, and Debo, who are the only ones who really turned out to be, other than Jennings, who's, become a starter at 7th round pick, who's turned out to be something. But the issue is they haven't drafted, Jennings is a great player in college who didn't test well, but he's a good wide receiver. They haven't drafted like that. They drafted Danny Gray, who is all speed. Can he do the rest of the stuff? Well, let's find out. They drafted Cowing to, be a speed guy, gadget guy, and a return guy. It seems like it hasn't worked out there, though. You're right. We haven't seen it on the field. Watkins this year as a 4th round pick. There are 4th round receivers that are able to get on the field and be activated throughout, the 17 game season this year. He's been unable to do that. And to your point, the receiving core has been thin. That to me is a bigger conversation of, hey, philosophically, what are they doing? Do they think that they want to build a receiving core? Like, why aren't they trying to, at this point, draft a starting caliber player? Like Puka Nacua was a 4th round pick. I'm not saying every 4th round pick is Puka Nacua, but there are good receivers that you can turn into solid starters that aren't, struggling to be activated on game day, that are available in the 4th round.
They draft for need too often. Like, I just feel like, even for example, like, look at this roster. It's almost put together like, well, if nobody gets hurt, we have all the pieces that we need. And it's like, well, yeah, but guys get hurt every year. And you specifically get hurt more than anybody else, right? Like, look at the defense. If Bosa's there with Huff on the other side and Michael and Alfred Collins and CJ West on the inside, like, you got a defensive line up front that's pretty damn good. And if Warner's there with Winters, you've got a linebacking core that's got speed, that can cover a little bit, that can really do some things. Then the secondary doesn't have to work as hard. All of a sudden, your defense looks really good. But then you miss this piece and it affects every other piece. And all of a sudden, the whole thing falls apart. It's like taking the bottom Jenga piece out of the tower and the whole thing falls down.
I see your point, and I don't think it's wrong, but I do think that there is a level of fairness I want to give to the 49ers in the sense of, like, a Warner or a Bosa is so unique that you're not necessarily going to have a replacement for them, and you're spending so much money on them that you do tend to think, okay, how do I build the rest of my roster around doing that? But to that same point, like, I don't want to harp on this because I don't think it's the biggest issue. But for example, this was a year, right? They cut the spending where they used to be the highest spending team when it came to the guaranteed money they'd give to undrafted free agents. They cut money down there. The veteran players that you have to spend for around your roster. The reason teams do this whole practice squad thing, the reason defensive players, above 28 that are looking for their 3rd contract. There's no 3rd contract in the NFL for defensive players anymore. If you look around, it's because owners have gotten cheap. They'd rather pay all these guys and then pay them on the practice squad and activate them 3 times so that you don't have to give them that full year of guaranteed money, because the veteran guaranteed money is very different compared to the I think it's 1 to 4 years or 1 to 5 years guaranteed money. And so you're seeing that all across roster building in the NFL. These are the places where it's like, yeah, when Warner goes down, I'm not saying anybody's going to replace Warner and you're going to have a really good player there, but I am saying that you could be better than Jason Pinnock and you could be better than Luke Gifford. Like, we can talk about Salah, right? But the whole situation for Salah is if a team, Kyle Posey talks about this all the time. Kyle Posey, great writer for the Niners. If a team goes 12 personnel, what are you going to do? Johnny Dells, I think, also mentions this. If a team goes 12 personnel, what do the Niners do? You put Pinnock on the field. Well, they can't stop the run with Pinnock on the field.
They love
You
when you
put Gifford on the field. They can't cover with Gifford on the field. And I'm not saying that Pinnock and Gifford are actually, I am saying Pinnock and Gifford are not great players. I'm not saying you could have had a great player there, but there are players available, at the edge of the NFL that are 25, 26, that are players that you can put in these spots and have a slightly better defense. And so that to me is the bigger issue here, Rob. Like, you're right. They are built where if McCaffrey goes down or if Bosa goes down, it's kind of like, oh, shit. But that's the case for a lot of teams except the ones with the really special guy at quarterback where it's like, yeah, they're going to win 12 games anyway. And shoot, the Niners did that this year and their quarterback missed 8 games in that. So it's one of those things. But I do think like they missed out on making the edges of their roster slightly better. And they didn't have to do it by spending overwhelming money either this year, but it didn't have to be Pinnock. It didn't have to be Luke Gifford. And I stand by there are places on this roster where they need to put eyes on investment. Like safety, I understand that they keep not wanting to spend money at safety at all. But the play they've gotten out of safety since Gibson has left has not been good. And it's not just good from a defensive line standpoint. Yes, the defensive line can make these guys better, but take Mustafa, for example, because I think Brown gets enough flack. Like, there are plays where you don't even see Mustafa attempt the tackle because he's run himself out of the play, which means that if Brown's missing the tackle in front of you, at least Brown is in the right spot and he's missing the tackle. Mustafa has run himself somewhere south of the play and he misses the tackle. I mean, there was a play where, yeah, they busted the run to Zach, or was it Ken Walker? First touchdown Seattle scored. Malik Mustafa has to make that tackle around the 20-yard line. Your safety has to be able to take that angle and either run him out of bounds or cut him down. And he got stiff-armed and run by for a touchdown. These are the things that where, yeah, like if Gibson makes that tackle, no problem. You're getting to play red zone defense on an opportunity like that. And they played good defense in the red zone against Seattle. So these are the little things. This is where they could have spent money, Rob. And this is where I think they need to put a little focus on making their roster better next year. And I don't think it's, going and getting Malik Collins either. I think there's a combination of balanced young players, undrafted free agents that you can put together and develop talent. Like, part of the issue I have is who are they developing right now in what they're playing, right? Like, who are the guys we look at as long-term players? You look at this defense, it would have been exciting if this defense had Malik or Michael Williams right now. It sucks that he got hurt because outside of Upton Stout and Alfred Collins, I don't look at D. Winters as a long-term starter on this defense. I really don't. I think D. Winters in 1 year when his contract gets up, you can move him out and get the next D. Winters. That's how I look at D. Winters. Yeah. I don't know about Lenore, but Lenore, I guess, will be here for a few years. I don't know that Renardo Green has shown that he's going to be the consistent starter at corner based on this year. It's been very up and down. Maybe they'll give him a chance because he's a second-round pick. Both safeties, I think Mustafa probably gets another chance, but there's no way you can do Mustafa, Brown, Pinnock, and Siegel for another year. There's got to be another guy that you're going to say is our starter and then have those three battle it out for the second spot. So I look at this defense and definitely not Bryce Huff, definitely not Sambo. There's two players that we look at and say, yeah, those are players that are developing. Alfred Collins is going to be a hell of a player next year because he played all these snaps this year. Upton Stout is going to be a hell of a player next year because he played all these snaps this year.
Maybe. We'll see about Upton. I'm not sold on Upton Stout. Werlock says,
my dad isn't either.
The Niners have a reputation of using and abusing rookie wide receivers and not wanting to pay them after. When they do pay them, they immediately regret it. Well, I don't know the reputation of using and abusing. I don't know what you're talking about there, but they certainly didn't want to pay Debo and they didn't want to pay Ayuk, and they ended up paying both, and they ended up not being happy about it. So the second half of your tweet, I agree with. I agree with what you were saying, Vish, about where is this second wave, because what the 49ers have essentially done is they are, and Levin talked about this too earlier this week, because of the drafting issues, they are really having to squeeze so much out of their hits, out of Bosa and Warner and McCaffrey and Kittle, because there hasn't been this second wave of guys that's come to there's been no reinforcements essentially. And so that is the scary thing. And even looking at this Eagles game, right? Or even the Seattle game. Seattle game is a perfect example. Low scoring affair, right? Seattle's moving the ball, but they're not putting up points. It is, as dominated as the 49ers got, Seattle was not putting up a ton of points in that game. What the Niners missed in that game? They missed a screen pass to Debo where he breaks 4 tackles and runs 40 yards. They didn't have a game breaker. They didn't have a guy that could overcome the fact that the Niners were outmatched by a better defense and just flat out make people miss and make a football play. They used to have that. They don't have it now. And that is what I think they really, really miss. I think they are very much dependent on Kyle getting guys open and Brock playing out of his mind. They don't have the same thing that we always used to say to knock Garoppolo and knock early Brock Purdy, that the Avengers are around him. They don't have Avengers right now.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree with that. And I mean, it was McCaffrey had 2 great games in a row. He had such a great season. This was not his best game. This was not Kittle's best game. I mean, I'm not saying it to like call them out. It's more to say that it's unfortunate that all of those things kind of came into one really bad night for the 49ers. I don't think 3 points is indicative of how they would do every time, even with this same group versus that defense. I think that defense had a really good day and the offense had a really bad day. But your point about the talent is, I think, generally correct, or regardless of that result and all of that. And I think to even further that point, it's because of 2 things, right? One, their weapons drafting, their running back receiver drafting in the middle round just flat out sucks. Garendo's another one that's just gone, okay, it's a bust essentially. And we went through the receivers just 10 minutes ago. So that flat out sucks. And then it was something I touched on in the 2024 draft when everyone was like, oh my God, what an amazing draft. You're not changing your franchise or getting meaningful players when you're picking a guard and everybody thinks a guard is a really good player. Or you're picking a safety and everybody thinks, oh man, the safety is a really good player. When's the last time they've picked a quality rusher? When? They've tried.
Well,
Michael Williams was supposed to be it. Unfortunately, he got hurt this year.
Oh,
Alfred Collins, yeah. Alfred Collins is the first, big defensive tackle they've picked since Javon Kinlaw. And we're seeing the impact of drafting a guy like this in the top 40 because there's not many 6'5", 320 people in the NFL. And if you have 6'5", 320 people on your defensive line, they're hard to move. It's hard to run the ball. Things get difficult. You need guys like that. That's why Kinlaw got $45 million guaranteed because he's 6'5", 320. It's a difference maker. When's the last time they've taken a tackle? Mike McGlinchey. So, these are the things that when you say, well, they've drafted well, no, they've been trying to draft, okay, we have our edge rusher, so let's draft the other edge rusher to support our edge rusher and try to pick a complementary player. Let's try to pick a guard to start in our offense for cheap for 4 years. Those aren't necessarily positions where when you lose your impact players, they're now going to be able to step up and you're going to feel like, yeah, oh man, they can build their offensive line around Dominic Puni when Trent Williams is gone. You're never going to get that sort of feeling. And they got back to it this year, but they got away from drafting premium positions and premium players for a while. Like they were focused on picking kickers and punters, thinking that that's how they were going to fill out their roster. And so that's what we're seeing hurt them a little bit. I wish they did this a year earlier in terms of trying to rebuild this defense. I think they could have accumulated a lot more talent in the last 2 years. They got another year to do it. I'd hope that they accumulate a couple more draft picks here coming into the offseason. And I hope they try to sign some veteran pieces to this defense, some guys that know how to play, some guys that, you can't just do basic coverages and they're going to screw it up because that's what goes on right now with the 49ers defense.
Very frustrating. Iceman 0072 says Seattle and the Rams draft players and play them. I agree. Kyle has to either change the offense or change the training staff because this whole dude got hurt in training camp. And so he can't play at all during the regular season. That has got to go. It has got to go. Like, I'm tired of it, man. I don't care that a guy got hurt in training camp. I get it's going to be harder. I get that he might be a little behind. Guess what? It's your job as a coach to get them to where they need to go to play in the games. I saw Jimmy Garoppolo join this team in the middle of the year in 2017, and he was starting at the end of the season. So I know it can be done. Like, it can be done. To your point, you mentioned Garendo earlier. He has not touched the ball on offense. He has not run a single play on offense. Jordan James has not run a single play on offense.
Oh, there's another good one.
Come on, man. You got to get over that, Kyle. It can't be that, because guess what? Especially your team. Guys are going to get hurt in training camp. Figure it out. Figure it out.
And Jordan James was supposed to help out with the running back receiving, right? And it's McCaffrey all the way, all the way, all the time. And yeah, I totally agree with that.
Joseph Ernberg says, Vish, how's the mock drafts looking? What's first pick?
No idea, man.
Yeah, it's a little early for him.
Am I the mock draft guy? I'm not a big mock draft guy.
That's
also, when on the previous comment, Rob, from Iceman, I want to say it made me have a thought, and I want you to talk me off a ledge or agree with the point if you do. But it's something about Shanahan that I've seen tweeted about. I've seen the take about it, which is, more or less Shanahan is his own GM. That's how I view it.
Yes.
I don't view it in the sense that, like, oh, John Lynch, Adam Peters, Tariq Ahmed, all these people don't have a job or they're not doing anything. I view it in the sense that they're all doing something for Kyle, and Kyle is ultimately making the final decision on who they pay, on who they draft, on how this roster is constructed, who makes the team, who's on this roster, who's getting elevated. All of these things to me are Kyle Shanahan decisions. And he brought up the Seahawks and the Rams, and what piqued my mind when I thought of Seattle and the Rams is that Les Snead, I think of as one of the best GMs in the sport in terms of the way they're constantly able to filter and make shrewd moves in terms of value and everything. I'm not saying they don't make bad moves either, like the Tavon Austin trade was terrible, but they seem to have a consistency and a clarity and a logic to how they go about building and rebuilding their team. Same with John Schneider with Seattle. And I wonder if Shanahan would do better with something like that, because for as successful as they've been, and they made so many great moves and they've done so many great things, they've been pretty awful when it comes to the whole value evaluation thing. Like, there's been way too many busts for a team this successful. There's been way too many busted signings. Like, I've never seen a team irresponsibly spend and put their foot in their mouth on what they spent on so many times in a row. And it's not just the Ayuks of the world. It goes back to 2017. Was Kyle Juszczyk their highly paid free agent signing that they hype up? Yes, but there was another guy named Malcolm Smith that they gave 2 years, with the first year being fully guaranteed, that played no snaps for them. That was their first busted signing. Then in 2018,
all right, we don't need to go through all of them.
Right. But the point is, right, you can go through so many signings of big money handed out to players that didn't come through. And then you look at Seattle, right? You go down the list, like, yeah, they drafted players like Boya Mafe, Derek Hall, but they also signed Leonard Williams. He's a terrific player. They signed Julian Love. They signed DeMarcus Tank Lawrence. Like, there's veteran signings that they spent money on, and they got 2 years of quality play, veteran play from those guys. And the Niners have, that's like a Charvarius Ward. The Niners don't have many of those sorts of signings in their era. What do you think of the whole GM thought? I don't think Kyle would go for it, but you see two rivals, two excellent head coaches, they have it.
I think it needs to be considered. I really do. I think you have to change it because of the fact that we haven't seen the reinforcements coming. I think you need a change in philosophy. You can't just stick with what's you've been doing, because you got to evolve, you got to grow, you got to change. Love Kyle as a coach. I love so much about him. This year is a testament to how good he is, but also you should always be looking to get better. And the 49ers should at least examine it. That's all I'm saying. At least examine it. Into the Polaroid, you get a fist pump. New YouTube channel member. Thank you so much. Oklahoma Niners 212 YouTube channel member says, Tashawn Gibson available? He came back to the Niners last year when it didn't mean anything anymore. Wish that was this year. They could use his veteran presence. I mean, he was one of their home run signings at a position that they really needed somebody. And their safety play is something that they are going to have to get better at. And I'm a little a little scared this week, Vish, because you got Devontae Smith and you got AJ Brown. Now, the thing about the Eagles that gives me hope is sometimes they shut themselves down. But it could also get very scary. It could what's the heck? The like scale of possibilities of what could happen this Sunday it's immense. The Eagles could completely stink on offense like they have for a lot of the second half this year, or they could put up 50 on the 49ers.
Totally. The Eagles, to your point, they do shut themselves down a lot. This is the rare year since the Howie Roseman era where their offensive line has kind of struggled. The combination of Juergens and Dickerson has not played as well from last year.
I love this comment from Into the
Yeah,
Post.
that's hilarious.
Give AJ Brown a good book, and it would be the best defensive move all year. Well done.
Right.
Sorry, Vince.
And, you know, the whole AJ Brown thing to that point has been a thing this year, although D. Smith has had a phenomenal year. He's very hard to cover. He's probably one of the best receivers at the catch point in the league, which is crazy considering he's 5'11", 170. But he goes up and gets that thing every time. And then Goddard's obviously a very good tight end. But to your point, they stopped themselves. The issue for the Niners is, okay, like maybe the Eagles offense will do some stupid things and not be able to move the ball against the Niners defense, which is the only way the Niners defense really gets stops. I mean, you look at the Bears game, Caleb made quite a few mistakes. You look at the Seattle game, Darnold is the difference between that game being 38-3 and the game being, 10-3, 13-3 for the majority of it. And so you hope the Eagles can do the same, but it's the matchup on the other side that I think gives the Niners a little more cause to pause. Because the one thing Seattle was able to do with their defensive line, and I think this is the scenario that puts the Niners offense, especially without a Pearsall or a Debo, to your point, like the guy that can, everything is not working scheme on scheme, but I'll make a big play, is if you are big enough in your defensive line that they can't move you, which Seattle is, with Leonard Williams, Tank Lawrence, and their great player, Byron Murphy, their rookie or their second-year player, great player. And, Philadelphia is with Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, all of these guys. And you're fast enough to be able to run with them laterally, which is both of these teams are. It becomes very difficult because now they can't run the ball against you. They're not fast enough to hit the edges and displace you and move it around with the gaps, and they're not big enough to move you and go inside of you, and then they're not able to then work their play action or anything off of it. It's a real tough spot for this offense, and I'm interested to see what they scheme up and what they come up with, because they're going to have a real plan, and they're going to have a real plan for big plays, and it can't be throw it 3 times behind the line of scrimmage and get 3 yards at McCaffrey. It's got to be throw it 3 times behind the line of scrimmage and get 50.
Well, let it rip, man. Like, this is house money as far as I'm concerned, right? I didn't think the Niners were going to get to the playoffs when Warner went down after Bosa went down. I thought they were dead in the water. And then Michael Williams, too. As far as I'm concerned, all the pressure is on the Eagles. What Kyle Shanahan has done this year has been incredible. Go out there and let it fly, man. Don't get conservative. Like, they called a lot of the game against Seattle like they knew that Seattle's defense was so much better, and they were just like saying, like, please don't hurt me. They didn't feel like they were attacking Seattle's defense. And I get that they're good. I understand all of that, but bleep it. Go out there, say, I'm Kyle Shanahan. I got a quarterback I believe in, and I'm going to go to work. And whatever happens, happens, man. That would be my attitude if I was Kyle going into Philly on Sunday.
Oh, I totally agree. I think you're unloading everything. Whatever we got. You got fake punts, you're bringing fake punts to Philly. You got 4th down, whatever. Like, you're going all in. You're coming into this game saying we're going to go for it anytime. Same way Mike McDonald told Troy Aikman, anytime we're in positive territory, we're going for this. Like, this is that sort of game. This is that sort of game for them. You're not going to be able to win a game script game. That's what they do. They play horrible and then win the game script game. You're not going to be able to go do it against them, especially with this talent discrepancy. Their defense will make a play. Like, what's the most likely thing that's going to happen in this game? Jalen Carter gets a big sack or a big pressure. That's not coming from your defense. I've seen Bryce Huff rush the passer, praying to God he'll get close to the quarterback for 2 straight games. He's not getting there.
No, in fact, it's so bad I've started to take the Bryce Huff under half a sack and it works out for me because he doesn't get any. By the way, I missed Antonio's super chat earlier. I'm sorry. Antonio says, I'd like to see the Niners go after Alec Pierce in the offseason. Me too. Plus he would fit nicely in the exciting whites that the 49ers seem to be assembling on offense.
Oh, totally. I also would love to see them go up and get Alec Pierce. I tweeted
really
it out. I think he's perfect for what they need. He blocks. He's tough. To your point, he's so good. He runs down the field. He would add speed. I think him and Pearsall would be the scariest, whitest receiver duo in the sport. Like, my God. I don't think we've ever seen, like, it's like Jordy Nelson 2.0 with, I don't think Ricky has a white guy comparison, but that's okay.
I think Ricky's like Ayuk, except with better hands.
Yeah. I think Ayuk's got a little more sturdiness to him and a little better run after catch.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
But Ricky catches the ball away from his frame and is like way more acrobatic than Ayuk.
Ricky has better hands. Ayuk's hands were not. He dropped a lot of passes, but anyway, I would love to see that on Sunday. Go for broke, Kyle. Forget whatever, man. Go for broke. Let it rip. They're the better team. They're a 4.5-point favorite now, as I just had up on the screen earlier. Let it fly. Get crazy. You haven't run a fake punt in 9 years as the 49ers coach. They haven't run a single one ever. Mitch Wishnowsky did it on his own one time, and it got called back, believe it or not, even though he picked up the first down. Do it. Let's see Kittle and Tonjes on the field at the same time and let them both run passes. Don't have them into block. Let them run passes. Just go nuts out there. I would really like to see it. Because I don't think that what you do is oh no, it's Vic Fangio's defense. Okay, let's just try to get a 5-yard. Forget that. How do you want to go out? If you're going to go out this year, do you want to go out, crumbled up in the fetal position saying, please don't hurt me? Or do you want to go out in a blaze of glory? Go out in a blaze of freaking glory, man.
And the other point is you have to literally be honest with yourself about your defense, which I'm not saying they haven't been, but I'm saying it has to be to the point where it's I don't trust them to ever get the stop. Regardless of how the game script is going, the Seattle game's a good example, right? You feel like they're playing well, but they're really not because they're one play away from a 50-yard run. They're one play away from Jackson Smith and Jigba being wide open for 20 yards over the middle, and then Lenore coming and tackling him, and then Lenore getting up, they're really battling out there. It's that's what this defense is this year. This defense, I mean, we did it after the Tennessee game, so we were a week early.
Brisbee Life says John
Lynch would be the best safety by far at this age on this team. I guarantee it.
Did you see his reaction when they picked up the 3rd and 17?
Yeah, because John Lynch can tackle in the alley. Both Malik Mustafa and oh my God.
It was a perfect example. What did I say? What did we talk about? I said, when the ball's on the ground or in the air, the 49ers have to get it. They have to, because they're not good enough to make stops. What happened? Darnold gets stepped on. He fumbles the handoff. Yetur Gross-Matos is right there. The ball hits him in the neck, and he can't recover it. And Seattle eventually, after converting 3rd and 17, like I said, when you're ahead of the sticks as a defense and you've got them behind the chains, you have to get a stop on that possession. They didn't do it. Seattle goes and gets a field goal, makes it a 2-score game, and you could never catch up from that point on. Perfect examples of the Seattle game. That's what this defense has to be. It has to be opportunistic. If the other team is going to give you a chance, you have to take it. And if you don't do it every time, you're going to really have an uphill battle to win the game, especially if your offense isn't putting up 35.
Totally. And I say just ride with whoever. Don't do the, we're riding with, this because this was our plan. If Brian Robinson's got a hot hand, for example, from what I see in the comments, ride with Brian Robinson. At this point,
let it roll.
No divas, no egos.
Whatever is working. Whatever is working, man. And you know what? I guess it's probably too late at this point, but
and please have a trick play for someone other than Kyle Juszczyk
or Christian McCaffrey. They ran that the flea flicker to McCaffrey and we got 3 yards. 4 people touched the ball and no one gained 3 yards.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to.
Don't be tight. Play with house money.
Yeah, go out there and roll. And look, we've been voicing some frustrations with Kyle Shanahan, and there are some, but also we should point out the good. Obviously, the fact that they won 12 games, that they were playing for a 1 seed in this season is insane. If you put the combined numbers from their quarterbacks together this year, they've thrown for almost 4,200 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. Okay. That is the fifth most yards in the league passing if it was one quarterback. And the third most, that doesn't seem right. I wrote it third, but it seems high. Man, I'm going to go with fifth again. Looks like a 5. I can't read my own writing. I'm sorry. Fifth most passing touchdowns. Like, he's put together a tremendous offensive year. You know, Drake May's competing for the MVP. He's thrown for 4,400 yards and 31 touchdowns. So that's basically what the 49ers quarterbacks have done this year. Kyle does so much good. He is the coach of the year for me this year.
No, Rob. One game defines it. That game was the Super Bowl, and because McDonald won the 1 seed, he's number 1 for coach of the year. But Shanahan is 2. Even though I put that criteria for McDonald being 1, I won't put Sean Payton 2 because I think Shanahan is 2. No, this is vibes voting, man. These guys are just voting based on who their comments likes.
I respect Mina Kimes so much.
She not just her though. She's not the only one who did it.
She knows more about football.
One of the best in the business.
Yes, she knows more about football than I do by a country mile. But Mike McDonald over Kyle Shanahan, anyone over Kyle Shanahan makes no sense whatsoever. And here's the ultimate argument, and I continue to say it. If you take Kyle Shanahan and you put him on any other team, and you take any other guy you want to give coach of the year to, and you put him on the 49ers, the other team that Kyle is coaching would be at least as good as they are now. And there is no chance in hell the 49ers team this year would have 12 wins with another coach. And that to me ends the argument.
Yeah.
It's Kyle.
I see where you're going there. I think that like that becomes awfully hypothetical because then it's like, how do you really know? But like your point is nobody achieved more with less than Kyle this year. And that part is very evident. But in my mind, Rob, it's like, if you say how they've given coach of the year in the past, right? You take the last 5 winners, you could easily make an argument that Vrabel, okay, he wins it because they've given that sort of coach of the year before. You could make the argument Liam Cohen wins it because they've made that sort of argument for coach of the year. Same thing for Shanahan. You just laid it out. Like what he did with less. Isn't that exactly how Brian Daboll won the freaking coach of the year job, winning 10 games? Isn't that how Kevin Stefanski has been winning the coach of the year job? So there we go for that. And then McDonald and Payton, same thing. Okay, if you want to say big turnaround 1 seed, Payton doing it with Bo Nix as his quarterback and spending so much money on Russell Wilson, turning that team around in 2 years. And same thing for McDonald. My issue is you say, well, McDonald beat Shanahan, so McDonald's the 1 seed, so McDonald's my number 1, but then Shanahan's 2 because Shanahan's done more with less. But then if the criteria that makes McDonald 1 should then make Payton or Vrabel 2. And that's where this confuses me. That's where it's like, if I'm going to be the voter, right, and I've got 5 candidates this year, this is one of those years, 5 candidates are truly worthy of this. You have to make the argument why one of them is more worthy than the other. If you say, I think McDonald's the most worthy candidate, then that criteria should follow up on who you think is the second most worthy candidate. It can't be, well, I think McDonald's the most worthy candidate, but then I think Shanahan's the second most worthy, even though McDonald's argument is what Payton has, but I like the vibes of McDonald plus the vibes of Shanahan. So, you know what I mean? And that, to me, is the bigger problem. And that's where I find the voting for these awards altogether dishonest. It's really, who is my audience going to be most impressed with me voting for? I've never seen a season, take the quarterback argument. I've never seen a season where someone has 46 touchdowns passing in a year and the other guy has 30 touchdowns passing in a year, and we're doing CPOE, strength of schedule, on target percentage. And this isn't like me saying even as a pro Matthew Stafford argument. I'm just talking about generally how the MVP is conceived. Go look at the years Manning had 46 touchdowns. Brady had 46 touchdowns. Rodgers had 46 touchdowns. The only one that got screwed is Breeze. And guess why? Rodgers had 45 touchdowns and 5 interceptions and had one of the greatest passing seasons we've ever seen. And so that to me is where like this argument of why we vote or who we vote or whatever, it's not there. They're just in charge of picking somebody. And I've told you this on a few different shows. Media don't care about covering the NFL anymore because media entity is about promoting themselves. So how do I promote myself to my audience? My responsibility isn't to vote for MVP. My responsibility is to vote for the MVP that I've been promoting to my audience based on what I promote to my audience. So it's become a very self-serving thing. It's pretty unfortunate. None of these awards really matter to me. I think it's stupid too if they do May MVP, Stafford Offensive Player of the Year, because that's an all-time season from McCaffrey, an all-time season from Jackson Smith-Njigba, an all-time season from Puka Nacua. One of those three guys deserves the Offensive Player of the Year for sure. So it'll be absolute bullshit if they do it. Stafford Offensive Player of the Year and May MVP. But yeah, for me, the whole award criteria, all of it, it's garbage, Rob.
And to be clear, I want to make sure I represent what you're saying. You're not saying Mina Kimes specifically is picking.
No, she's one of the best in the business. Her job isn't to vote on MVP. That's not what she's paid to do. But the process, it's one of her jobs. That's not what her primary job is. It's something. Right. Yeah. That's not what her primary job is. My point is, hey, like you're like one of like what the job has become, what it's become, especially because now, dude, she's part of a show that does MVP frontrunner 4 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
And then they do MVP frontrunner week 5. It's almost like if I'm the MVP frontrunner weeks 4 to 12, I'm literally asking to be losing that by December, because at some point you're going to dip a little bit and someone else is going to pick up.
Monitor says McDonald beats an injured 49er team and instantly is up for coach of the year. Kyle stayed competitive all year with a half a team. Yeah, the worst thing that ever happened for Kyle Shanahan is playing the Seahawks in week 1. Nobody counts that victory. It just doesn't count anymore because it was week 1. We act like it doesn't happen, doesn't count. Only this last Seahawks game counts. Doesn't matter that the 49ers won. Just like that first Rams game. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that Kyle went in there with a box of scraps. Tony Stark built this in a cave with scraps. That's what Kyle Shanahan did when he beat LA earlier this year.
Short week. No one gave him a chance. Mac Jones, and they lit him up. They went down the field, and everybody thinks the Rams have this, really good defense, and they played so well the first 8 weeks of the year when they were playing all those bad teams. Totally agree. And by the way, I want to add to this. I don't have an issue with McDonald being the coach of the year. I think McDonald's done an awesome job. I think any year McDonald's a worthy coach of the year candidate, and any year what he achieved wins coach of the year. It's just one of those years where there's 5 different guys you can make the argument for. And if you choose to go and you say, well, I'm going to go in this direction out of these 5 guys, then you can't come back and say, well, I'm not going to use that consistency for any criteria I do in the following.
Oklahoma Niners 212. Thank you for the super sticker. Appreciate that. He'll adapt to reading. 8465 says, y'all are capping for a guy whose team scored 3 points at home. Embarrassing. Yeah, it's almost like the season is more than one game or something. I don't know. That's weird how we're doing that, right? Like, you serious? Yeah, they got stomped on Saturday. No question about it. It was a bad game from everybody. Yeah, but we got to look at the season as a whole. And we got to look at the fact that this team is still in the playoffs. And I continue to say, if you take QB1 off another team for 8 games, and you take pass rusher 1 off another team for 14 games, and you take their best linebacker off a team for 11 games, you take wide receiver 1 off a team for a whole season, you take wide receiver 2 off a team for 8 games, you take the best tight end in the league off a team for 6 games. Let's see if those teams make the playoffs. So yeah, I'm caping for Kyle Shanahan. Absolutely. The man is amazing, and I make no apologies for it. As frustrating as sometimes he makes me, he's awesome. 2 things can be true.
And the problem isn't them scoring 3 points, right? Because if the problem was that, then, McDonald's defense got lit up by Stafford. Okay, you want to say they won that game? They also got lit up earlier in the season in games that they lost, and they had number 1 defense by far. They had an excellent defense, not to take that away. It's like if you reshuffle the Niners schedule and they finish with the Bears game, and Seattle's game was week 12, and they still get blown out and they still get smoked, and Seattle still punches them in the mouth and they score 3 points, people are still like, well, he won 12 games with this roster. Well, look at how he finished the year. Look at how this offense did. That's why I think it's bullshit. Okay, you want to say, well, McDonald deserves it over him because he's the 1 seed. That's fine. The problem is, well, it's because of that game. That game wasn't the Super Bowl, and that game wasn't also the argument for why Shanahan was the coach of the year. It wasn't because he got his team to the 1 seed. It was because he won 12 games and was playing for the 1 seed at home with what you just mentioned. I'm not going to go through it again. No quarterback, no Kittle, no Ayuk.
It's staggering to me. But okay, whatever the last thing that happened is, that's all that matters. That's fine. Just like if the 49ers win, they'll be like, Kyle Shanahan should be coach of the year. Like if the 49ers beat the Eagles on Sunday, that's what people are going to be saying. It's incredibly frustrating.
I think they'll be saying Nick Sirianni should be fired.
Well,
the Eagles somehow, whether they win or lose, they're the center of attention. It's very Cowboy-esque.
Yeah, there's a little of that with the Eagles. I'm going to be doing some shows in Philadelphia this week. Going to be very interesting to hear their take on the whole thing. We'll get back to more 49ers talk in a second, but first, just want to give a shout out to Sleeper. We love Sleeper here on the show. We're so proud that they hopped on and became a sponsor this year. I did not know about the app and how good it is until this season. Jay and Steph were telling me it's the best app out there. I've used it. It's phenomenal. You can see the picks there. They have picks for all sports. They have fantasy games, which I know, obviously, there's playoff fantasy leagues in the NFL. Also, you can do other sports as well. They have news. You can see the Browns firing Kevin Stefanski, 2-time coach of the year. Kevin Stefanski, as we're talking about it here. So everything you could possibly want is on the Sleeper app. Go check it out right now. If you sign up, you can get a free $20 entry. You don't even have to deposit any money. So go and do that. Have some fun. Use it for yourself. I think you'll like it. And if you decide you want to deposit money, use our code GSP, and you'll get up to a 100% match on your first deposit, up to $100. When you make your picks, you just choose higher or lower on different stats, passing yards, touchdowns, things like that. They got a million of them. And if you get it right, you could win up to 1,000 times your money. Go see for yourself. I promise you will like it. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Vish, I was scanning the different people, analysts, things like that, talking about this game. And Ben Solak, who I used to work with at SB Nation, who used to just cover the Eagles, but now, of course, is at ESPN, is picking the 49ers to win the game. He is the only person I know picking the 49ers to win the game, but he doesn't trust the Eagles offense. How bad does the Eagles offense have to be on Sunday for the 49ers to win?
They have to turn the ball over.
Because, they don't do that.
If they happen to hand the ball off to Saquon Barkley, like the Niners defense sometimes can get stuffs, but without Tatum Bethune, with who they have flying around in the second level, that's not flying. That's walking around. And the way their safeties come down and tackle, I would say their DBs altogether, but I think the corners actually do an okay job tackling when it's all said and done between Stout. Luter does a really good job. Luter or Green, and then Lenore, who had a very good tackle last week. To me, still been inconsistent tackling this year. But the safeties and the linebackers down the middle of they got no chance tackling Saquon Barkley. And if they decide to throw it to A.J. Brown, they have no chance covering A.J. Brown. And if they happen to throw a deep ball once to Smith and Hurts does get it in his vicinity, Smith is probably going to come down with that deep ball. So, like, to me, when you describe it that way, the Niners defense, like, yeah, the Eagles offense, like, knows how to stop themselves, but if they don't turn it over, like, eventually they're going to be able to get something out of it and something going, because who have they stopped? Even Cam Ward was, having some success against the Niners defense. Shador Sanders had a quarter where it was like, oh, Shador, like, he had his entire fan base going off for a quarter against the 49ers.
Okay. So that means he had 3 bad quarters, though, right? Like, you say, who have they stopped? You can't be like, well, this guy had a good quarter.
Well, Shador Sanders had maybe 1 good quarter in his career in the NFL, and that was that.
No, he's done a lot better against teams that aren't the 49ers than he did against the Niners. I think it's going to come down to a few things. Normally, I would say if the Eagles maybe go for it on 4th down a bunch, but Sirianni doesn't really. He's not super aggressive. He can turtle up and play conservative in some big moments. The Niners defense is actually good in goal-to-go situations, believe it or not. They're the second best team in the league, only behind Philadelphia, which is frustrating. But in that situation, it's weird. Here's what you got to hope. You got to hope somehow the 49ers can hold the Eagles to field goal attempts. Eagles field goal kicking, very shaky. And for some reason, kickers have been missing a ton of kicks this year against the 49ers. I can't explain it, but I'll take it. So maybe you can get a couple of stops that way. He misses some field goals. Maybe you happen to get a turnover. Maybe it's a special teams turnover, right? Your special teams makes a big play.
And you got to be worried about them too in the kicking game because Jalen Carter has been notorious to block kicks.
They're very good at
since
blocking
becoming
field
elite.
goals.
Like him and Jordan Davis are very good at getting penetration quick on these kicks and getting it up. And it's windy in Philly. It's not the easiest place to kick. So that's another thing for their kicking game because Dinero Pinero has been just mucho dinero all year.
Awesome, man. All 49ers kickers other than Jake Moody this year have been fantastic. Don't go for field goals. That's how you solve that problem, Vish. What do I always say? Field goals are failures. Don't go. That's another, we talk about, like throwing the kitchen sink at them, leaving it all out there. Your best unit is your offense by far. It's not even close. So put the game in their hands. I don't want to see any punts from Philadelphia territory. Like, no. If it's 4th and 5 or less, go for it. Stop this punting. Stop putting your defense out there. The best defense you can have against Philly is not having Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley on the field. Put the game in the hands of your $50 million quarterback and let it ride. Let the chips fall where they may. But don't just try not to lose because that never works.
Yeah, I agree. I can't say much more than that. And I think the other thing I want to say going back, because I think this encompasses our full conversation about this, starting with the Solak tweet, is take the ball. Don't defend.
Yes.
Take the ball and try to get up on them. Try, like, if you can scheme out your first drive, which we know how great Shanahan is on the script, take the ball and see if you can get down the field and get up 7-0. That is much more meaningful than the whole second half double dip. You need to be giving your defense a lead, and you need to be playing with the lead for your offense's sake. Because if they're up 10-0, if they start 7-0, and now you got Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis being able to stretch out with a little bit of a lead, and you put that pressure on your defense where it's like they just got to make stops to get into it, to keep you into it, you're going to feel defeated. The morale of the game is going to feel defeating the whole time. That's how the Seahawks game felt, because the entirety of the game, it felt like the Niners defense had to make the stop so that we have even a chance. And it was like, oh, can they make it? Can they? That's not a good place to be. They're going to hold the ball, even if they don't score, which is what Seattle did. It's a very anxious place for your team to be. So take the ball and see if you can get up on them early. It's what you did versus the Rams. You got to jump out to that lead with Mac Jones. It's that. You got to surprise them. You got to punch them before they even know you're in a fight.
I completely agree. I was literally just going to say that. If you go back and look at the games the 49ers have won, or especially the ones you think that they shouldn't have won, watch usually the Niners come out, they score a touchdown, they get a defensive stop, Niners get the ball back, and they go up 2 scores. Usually 2 touchdowns, but 2 scores. And then so what happens? Even if your defense can't make the stops, the other team scores, your offense gets the ball back with a chance to make it a 2-score game, even if they only need a field goal to do it. That is the game script that the 49ers operate best in. And that is the game script that they have operated in large part in all of their wins this year. Everybody knows the stat. Kyle Shanahan doesn't come back in the 4th quarter when down by at least a touchdown. They need the game script to operate in their favor. And I feel like Robert Saleh does get a couple of stops early in the game, and then things sort of snowball for the defense. That is the game script that has to happen on Sunday if the 49ers are going to win.
Oh, totally. I think the Tatum Bethune injury is brutal. I don't think Bethune is shown like, oh, Bethune is a starting linebacker, but Bethune is the most athletic tackler in that second level in space. D. Winters is probably the best athlete altogether of their linebackers, but I think Bethune probably does the best job of filling and running and tackling in the run game specifically. And yeah, I don't know who that. I think is Eric Kendricks has hit his threshold, right? He's been activated for 3 games, so it's not Eric Kendricks. I guess
Eric Kendricks
Robinson season, baby.
No, they'll sign Kendricks to the active roster, and he'll play.
That's a lot of money, man.
Garrett Wallow, like that's where we are. That's where we are. So again, that's why you have to put the game in the hands of your offense. You just have to do it if you're Kyle Shanahan. There is no other way around it. And look, weird stuff can happen. Maybe A.J. Brown doesn't get involved early and he kind of gets mad, right? And then they finally throw him the ball and he's not locked in. The ball bounces off his hands and hopefully falls into the hands of a 49ers player. Like that is the weird stuff. it's not, a miracle play, but it's just kind of weird, fluky stuff that the Niners have to take advantage of.
But like to that point though, Rob, it's like they can't even really take advantage of that, right? Because it's like the best way to defend Seattle or Philly's offense is make their play caller have to call it and make Jalen Hurts playing quarterback because he can't call 3 good plays in a row, and Hurts struggles when he has to play quarterback for 3 plays in a row. It's this perfect balance. But the Niners defense won. It's not athletic enough to be able to keep Hurts in the pocket or run with Hurts. So Hurts is going to be able to freelance a little bit. And we saw in the Bears game, they're not going to be able to match up with these weapons and run with them, especially if they have to cover them for 4 and 5 seconds. And that's where this matchup becomes even worse because it's like even the things Salah can do, it's like Hurts can run out of the blitzes just with how athletic the Niners are. I mean, who was the guy that Darnold, was it D. Winters or Bethune, that Darnold completely shook out of their boots on a linebacker blitz?
Play he got hurt on.
Yeah, he came free, and Darnold made him look like they're not the same level of athlete. That's what Darnold made. He didn't put a hand on Darnold. Darnold made him look bad.
Darnold can move a little bit.
Yeah, he's sneakily athletic to your point, but Jalen Hurts is a little different athlete.
He's not sneaky athletic. He's just athletic.
Yeah.
Iceman 0072 says even if we win, we would still have to go to Seattle. First of all, that's not true because if the Packers beat the Bears, they're the 7 seed, so Seattle would play Green Bay. And also, if they have to play Seattle again, maybe they beat Seattle this time. Like, again, Levin did the same thing. Well, the odds that they win 4 games in a row, whatever, man. They don't have to play 4 games this weekend. They only have to play 1. They only have to play 1. So
I think they would rather play Seattle than a lot of teams because Seattle is we just saw them. We saw all the things we did wrong, and now nobody's going to give us a chance, and we get to go in there and maybe correct these things with house money. Like, that's a division game. They can get tight, all these good things. Darnold is one of the quarterbacks you probably want to face in a high leverage playoff game of the guys left. Like, Seattle, to me, like, if we're ranking matchups, I put Philly as a way worse. I don't want to see them despite their offensive issues just because, like, why do I want to see Big Dom and Jalen Carter in a playoff game? Like, come on. It's just a bad mix for me.
But, like, for all the talk about big bad Seattle, they've scored 2 touchdowns in 2 games against the 49ers. That's it. And I got Seattle Seahawks fans in my mentions mad at me because I pointed that out. Well, it could have been more and it should have been more. Yeah, guess what?
If they never threw the ball, with their quarterback, who was the only reason it wasn't more, they probably scored 38 points on the 49ers.
So what? Like, my point is, like,
no, that's what I think is funny for Seattle. They chose to do it, and their quarterback kept making mistake after mistake and keeping the Niners in the game. It wasn't just turnovers, right? How many open throws? Did he miss 2 guys wide open in the end zone? The guy who was covering him did the seat jump just because he missed the throw.
He missed the guy in the flat on the 4th down play. He was wide open. I have no idea why he didn't throw it to the guy.
The sack he took after the JSN first and goal.
Yep. So look, all I'm saying is they scored 2 touchdowns in 2 games, and one of those games came against the 49ers defense that was as broken as could possibly be. So just focus on the game this weekend. Anything can happen. I know it's not likely. We get all that. We've said all the caveats. Doesn't mean the Niners can't win it. And if they don't win it, we'll deal with the offseason in the offseason. Don't worry. We're going to have plenty of time to break down team needs and criticize the GM and the coach and all that stuff. But I got 1 week left, maybe, in the sunshine of football season. I love football season. I wait all year for the team to play actual games that actually count. So forgive me if I want to spend at least 1 more week enjoying that before I shovel dirt on this team, which has done nothing this year except prove that you shouldn't be burying them even when they look dead.
Oh, totally. I agree. Again, if they got a fake punt, Rob, this is the game. Pull it out. Let's go.
They got to go with the Waterboy game plan, right? Suburban Bowl. You can't hold anything back.
No, seriously. I hope maybe they get some shitty weather. You get a snowstorm. All of a sudden, both offenses can't do anything, and the Niners defense doesn't really have to tackle because they're falling over in the snow.
Who knows? Maybe let's just let it play out. When they lose, if you want to get in my mentions and say, ha ha, I told you they were going to lose, great. If that makes you feel any better, great. But I'll tell you this, if you're doing this because you're worried about how you're going to feel when the Niners get eliminated, it's not going to hurt any less. No matter how much you tried to shield yourself now from a playoff loss, that pain is going to happen. So if that pain is inevitable if they lose, you might as well not inflict it on yourself for the week leading up to the game.
Yeah, I can't tell, Rob. Are you hating today or are you being overly positive? Can you pick a lane?
I'm trying to be positive. Like, I feel like everybody is like,
But I
season's
thought you were
over.
Mr. Hater.
Please, I get accused of being a hater on the instant reaction show. I get accused of carrying water for the team, which, by the way, should tell you that I'm objective, or I try to be objective, right? If I get accused of both, that should tell you when the team plays well, I say they play well, and when they don't, I criticize them. Frisbee Life
Okay,
calls it
Rob.
enraged positivity.
Okay, Rob.
Oh, and then
Oh.
no soup for you, says Rob is like Lombardi. No, I'm not trying to be Lombardi. I just spent the whole first half of the show saying they probably will
I think
lose
he's
this
messing
weekend.
with you, Rob.
But, I mean, come on. Let's
I
let it
think he's
play out.
I think he enjoys the same vein coming out that I like.
Well, so it's
What was that guy's name? The
frustrating.
commenter?
No soup for
No
you?
soup for you. No soup for you. You know the one I like too, right under the chin. He's got that one on the neck that just sticks out.
Sorry, I get worked up about these things. My team's in a
We
playoff game.
love
Plus,
you getting worked up. Come on.
they're playing it on my birthday. They can't lose on my birthday, can they? Like, that's just not allowed.
No, that isn't allowed. Like you should let the team know. Like
Right.
instead of Gus Bradley doing the pregame speech, you should be invited, flown down there on Saturday. The team
I'll
should
do it.
see this live. Like they should know how passionate you are about this.
Maybe I need to record like the pregame speech that I would give if I was in that locker room. Maybe I can record it and like put it to music and be like, here you go, Kyle. I got it all packaged up for you. I'll send it off. You guys can do with it what you will. I'll send it to the 49ers PR team. I'm sure they'd get a kick out.
I think they got to go there with house money, man. Like they got to just tell everybody. Like they got to soup up everybody's confidence. Tell Alfred Collins he's freaking Chris Jones, for Christ's sake. Tell him the whole week, you are Chris Jones. Landon Dickerson and Juergens, they've struggled this year. They've struggled playing between each other. They've struggled this year. You can have a huge game, Alfred Collins. Tell Bryce Huff, this is the team that bailed on you.
Yep.
This is your chance. This is your big, like, Sam O, you're about to become a 20 million. Tell him he's going to be a $20 million pass rush. Like, whatever you can do to like unnecessarily gas these guys up. You're playing with house money. You're going on the road. You have all of these injuries, right? No one's going to pick you to win, especially following what Seattle did to you. Because I think no matter what the score was, any of those things, the one thing Seattle did definitively put a statement in everybody's mind after that game is they're top to bottom better than the 49ers this year in terms of talent. Like their roster looked much better than the 49ers. That was very clear on Saturday night. And so nobody's going to pick the Niners going into Philly besides Ben Solak, who might be reverse jinxing them. And so when you have all of this, like this is your opportunity. You gas the team up as much as possible. You get, very like ready to go for this game. Obviously, you do all the things you normally do, but you just feel like, man, this is house money. Like everybody, like just go out there, rip it, have a good time. And who knows? You tell them it's Rob Guerrera's birthday and magic might happen.
That's all it takes. I'm sure that would be the fighting words that would inspire the 49ers to victory on Sunday. But I'm just trying to enjoy it, man. I'm trying to enjoy. This has been an incredible season. It's not over yet. And until it's over, if this year has taught us anything, it is to not give up. And maybe this team needs to have their back against the wall to play their best. We will find out on Sunday. But regardless, we hope you find out together with us. If this is your first time watching, thank you. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. There's over 500, almost 600 people watching right now. Thank you so much. We're live every single weekday. We're live after every game. If you go to the audio side of the podcast, we do a 5-minute 49ers news update every weekday that has press conference clips and injury updates and everything you need to know to be up to speed on the team. So please check us out. I promise you, you will enjoy the experience. I don't know if you're going to enjoy what we end up talking about because we'll see, but please give us a shot. I promise you, we will earn your time. Bish, as always, thank you, sir. Thank you for a tremendous 2025. I sent you your tax documents today. Hope you got
I
those.
know. What a gift from you.
Yeah, enjoy that. That was fun for me. That was my day today. Tax
Yeah.
documents and data entry. Yeah.
Happy early birthday to you, pal. Don't tell us what that age is. Nobody needs to know that number.
It's
Keep that in
41.
between.
You always make a face when I say how old I am. That's hurtful, Fish. That is not helpful. What I need right now. All right. The wrinkles on my forehead, they don't go away anymore. All right. That is not helpful.
Okay, yeah. I sometimes it's performative, okay? Sometimes
Sure.
like when Ben Johnson, like he knows the camera's on him and he takes his hat off, rubs his head and goes, that's me. When you say you're how old are you again?
Stop it. You jerk. Please. It took me a while to adjust to being 40. 41, I'm seemingly doing okay with. But no. Thank you, sir, for everything. Really. I appreciate it.
Hopefully we have a fun Monday.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah,
Otherwise,
we'll
we'll break it
deal
down
with
either way.
whatever Monday brings.
Exactly. Have a good rest of your Monday, everybody. We'll talk tomorrow.